In today's video, we ask the immortal question, why do guitar players like boost pedals? Well, hey there kids, it's your good buddy, Uncle Ben. Whether you're an SD1 dude or an 808 mate, it seems like about everybody has their favorite boost pedal these days. It's a really great way to shape the tone of your favorite amp and carve out a unique sound for yourself. But where do these things come from? How do we use them? And why should we care? Let's find out. As always, this video is brought to you guys by everybody who supports my channel over on my Patreon page at patreon.com/BenEllerGuitars. Sign up today, even for just the $1 a month level. It's gonna get you access to all kinds of cool stuff like bonus videos, vlogs, downloadable tabs, bonus lessons, all kinds of good stuff. This week, everybody who supports my channel, even for just $1 a month, also gets a bonus video to go along with this one, showing you guys how all these different boosts sound in front of my good old Mesa Boogie Dual Rectifier right here. That way you can get an idea of just how much tone shaping a good boost pedal can do. So don't delay, sign up today. Thanks. Gear-wise for today's video, I'm gonna be using a bunch of different guitars and amps, but they're all gonna be running through this guy. Wait, not that guy right there. The Sir RLIR box, which is one of the most important pieces of gear in my studio. It's a really easy to use box that allows me to record all these monster tube amps at any volume that I want to here in the apartment without getting the cops called on me. It's nice. I like things that are nice. Way back in the day, amps weren't built with a dedicated knob to control how much distortion your tone had. If anything, that kind of breakup was seen as kind of a nasty side effect of turning your amp up to arena-crushing volumes. If you wanted to get that saturation and sustain like you were hearing on the AC/DC records, you would just have to crank your amp up to 10, which is seriously enough volume to like stun an elephant at 100 paces. And unless you were headlining Madison Square Garden, that just really wasn't an option. Playing a 100 watt head like this Marshall Superbass right here at normal small club volume just wasn't going to produce the kind of saturation and distortion you'd need for the rock and hard rock styles that were getting popular at this time. This particular amp right here is on loan to me from my good buddy John Cooper here in Knoxville, and I want to show you guys what it sounds like. I'm gonna have it up to the kind of volume that would be overkill for any normal gig, and as you're gonna hear, it's still not even really starting to distort. I'm gonna go straight into the front of the amp here using my lovely 2022 Gibson Les Paul Custom, because why wouldn't I? So I've got the amp turned up way louder than I would ever use at a small gig, and as you can hear, it's still just kind of like barely crunchy. It's really dynamic, it's really reactive to your playing. If you dig in hard, you get more drive out of it, but if you play soft, it's pretty much clean. But because that perceived flaw of distortion was becoming such a hallmark of the hard rock styles of the 70s, pedal makers started trying to figure out a way to make something that would overdrive the front of the amp. That way everyday players could get the kind of distortion they were hearing on records, but at a more manageable volume. As a solution to this, Boss released their OD1 pedal in the mid-late 70s, but I don't have one of those. What I do have, though, is another piece of boost history, the Ibanez TS808 Tube Screamer. Using a pedal like this in front of a non-master volume amp, players could turn up the overdrive control and get all the rich sustain and compression that they were looking for, but just at a way more manageable volume. I've got the amp turned back down to like normal gig volume, and as you can hear, we just have that barely distorted kind of tone again. So I'm gonna turn on the Tube Screamer right here and check it out. You're getting that cranked tone, but at a usable volume. It's a good solution for gigging players that wanted their audience to be able to hear after the first song. This JHS Banzai pedal is like 9 different types of Tube Screamer in one, and using the little rotary knob right here, you can take yourself on a tour through some of the most iconic Tube Screamer style circuits. Like the original Boss OD1, the darker and gainier TS9 model, and even JHS's own personal take on the TS circuit. But just like pedal makers, amp builders also responded to players' increasing appetites for more gain and saturation in their tone by starting to build more and more master volume amps in the late 70s and early 80s, like this awesome Marshall JTM 800 right here that my good buddy Phil Sandifer loaned me. I have cool friends. This is when we started seeing more amps with dedicated gain controls. That way you can get all that increased compression and distortion at a volume that isn't going to, make your ears bleed. Let me show you guys what this thing sounds like straight in with my Sir Modern White Tiger. In the 1980s, a lot of players found that running their favorite Tube Screamer or Boss SD1 with just a little added distortion in front of their master volume amps could send their tones into full metal meltdown with increased distortion, saturation, and harmonics. The Boss SD1 is still one of my favorite pedals ever. They're super cheap, you can find them anywhere, and they really do sound great in front of every amp. You can run it in front of a clean amp and just use it entirely for all of your distortion, or do what I'm about to do here with this 800, which is to say, run the drive up just a little bit, shape the tone for maybe a little bit more brightness, and most importantly, turn up the level. That way I'm really hitting the front of the amp hard. One thing that you really notice about a boost pedal in front of an already distorted amp is how much it tightens up the low end. Listen to these palm muted chugs on the low E here without the boost. Pretty fat and woolly sounding. Now with the boost. It also adds a good amount of increased sustain and compression, which just makes the lead playing so much more fun and easy, which of course has become a pretty important thing during the shred guitar arms race of the late 80s and early 90s. For just such an occasion, the Earthquaker Devices Plumes is one of my favorite boosts. Let's shred it. Getting into the 90s, the competition to become the next Shreddy Krueger was winding down, but the quest for the ultimate chug was just starting. Players were tuning lower 7-string guitars were becoming a lot more popular, and amps like the PP5150 and Mesa Boogie Rectifier series had more gain and low end on tap than anything we'd seen before that. But that combination of the guitars being tuned lower plus the amps having more bottom end and gain made for some real mudball tones. This is my Ibanez RG7421. It's from the late 90s. I'm gonna plug that straight into the front of my Mesa Boogie Dual Rectifier. You get the idea. You can hear that low end is like really saggy, really loose. The bass is pretty out of control. And maybe that's cool for like that new metal, Korn kind of thing, but definitely not what you want if you're going for like fast, articulate tones, and especially not if you're playing lead. And it really only gets worse as you turn the gain up more. Thank Cthulhu, we've got boost pedals to save the day. Listen to what a difference this cheap little Boss SD1 makes in front of that dual rec. So here it is again without the boost. All flubby and tubby. Now let's turn on the SD1 here and listen to it turn into a murder machine. It's seriously a night and day difference, both in terms of the sound and even just how it feels. Without the boost, it feels like really sluggish and slow, but as soon as you put a boost pedal in front of a rec, it becomes like one of the tightest, meanest sounds you ever played through. And because amps like this Mesa Dual Rec are so boostable, this is really cool because you can experiment around with seeing exactly what kind of boost gives you the tone that you want, because they're all gonna sound a little bit different. From my experience, the absolute tightest and meanest boost you can put in front of a rec is still the Pepers pedals Dirty Tree. Seriously, this thing is unbelievable. Check this out. Let's compare the all-out brutality of that Dirty Tree here with the Walrus Audio Warhorn, which is a lot more subtle. Once again, I'll play without the boost, then turn it on. It's allowing the tone of the amp to come through a little bit more. It's not cutting as much of that low end. So if you like that extra girth that the Rectifier series has, but you want to preserve it a little bit more while also tightening it up and just giving you a little bit more compression, a pedal like that makes a huge difference. Now, it's also worth mentioning that the way that modern players use boost pedals in front of their distorted amps is quite a lot different than the way people did it back in the day. Most of us already have enough tonal control and enough distortion on the amp as it is, so we actually turn the drive basically all the way down. You can add in a little bit if you just want, you know, maybe some extra for a lead or something. But most of us just run that all the way down. The tone control, most of us will put that at noon unless you just want some extra brightness, or maybe you want to darken down overly bright amp. And we run the level like all the way up, at least at noon, if not all the way up. That way you hit the front of the amp like a sledgehammer and really tighten it up aggressively. The REVV Generator series is another great example of an amp that was built with quite a lot of low end on tap, so it should respond to a boost very well and get nice and tight for us. I'm going to use one of my favorite, most underrated little boost pedals in the world, which is the Digitech Bad Monkey. This is kind of a best kept secret, so don't tell anybody. I'm just going to chug here on this low A while I turn the boost on and off so you can hear the difference. The funny thing is that super tight boosted high gain tone has become such a standard that now a lot of amp builders are making their amps with kind of a already boosted tone straight out of the box. My EVH 5153 EL34 head back here is a perfect example of that. I would never dream of putting a boost pedal in front of it because just plug your guitar straight in and it already sounds insanely tight and saturated. Let's put this Dunnable Cyclops here in front and check out how it sounds. That's straight into the amp and the gain is on like halfway on the red channel. It's kind of ridiculous. You could boost it, but it really doesn't make it that much better. Because again, it's not like it needs more gain and it's not like the low end needs to be tighter. Sometimes whenever you take an amp like this that has that kind of modern, already boosted sound and then you boost it, sometimes it can actually shave off too much low end and leave you with a kind of anemic sound. Let's use that Pepers Pedals Dirty Tree again in front of this amp and you'll hear what I'm talking about. Here it is without the boost. And here it is with the boost. You can hear it gets like really kind of square wave sounding and almost has like a cocked wah sort of tone to it. It just doesn't need a boost really. And that's something that I love about amps built by Dave Friedman, like my BE100 right here. His amps are kind of made from the ground up to be that ultimate hot rodded Marshall kind of tone, only you just have to plug your guitar straight into the front and you don't need any pedals or anything else to make it sound amazing. I'll be using my ancient Ibanez RG550 here with Fishman Fluence Classic pickups in it. I love knowing that I don't need anything else to bring to the gig. I can just show up with this amp in a cabinet and that's got all the gain, all the saturation, all the low end that I need without needing the help from an additional pedal. And herein lies the great modern debate, both sides of which I completely understand. Which is better, a good amp with a boost or an amp so good that it doesn't need a boost? I know years ago I thought the idea of buying like a $1,500 amp like that Mesa Dual Rec and needing a $50 SD1 in order to make it sound good sounded like a really dumb idea. But nowadays I look at an amp needing a boost pedal as like an opportunity. It's a chance for you to make your own sound, your own little sonic thumbprint that only happens whenever your mitts combine with your favorite guitar, your favorite boost pedal, and the amp that it loves. Finding the perfect combination of those elements is an opportunity to create something that's totally unique and completely your own. And that's why guitar players like boost pedals. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, subscribing to my channel, clicking that like button, and ringing the bell for notifications every time I upload a new slice of fried gold. If you like this video and want to get access to a ton of exclusive stuff like downloadable tabs, bonus lessons, backing tracks, and more, be sure to support my channel over on my Patreon page at patreon.com/Ben Eller Guitars. But now it's time to step back from the screen and go play some guitar. Less clicking, more picking.